I don't know. What do we had at man camp? What would you do at man camp?
What would you need me to do at man camp?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure how.
I mean, we can punch people in the face. We can kick people in the legs. We can. I mean, I can.
That could be fascinating. That could be
or if you guys are interested in an algebra class and you want me to come down here and review the Pythagorean theorem or the quadratic equation, or
Welcome to The Aggressive Life. Today we're jumping into part 2 of my conversation with UFC Hall of Famer Rich Franklin. I had started to wind the conversation down and end it, and then we just went on to a whole new number of topics, which I found really, really invigorating, and I think you'll see that in today's episode. I think you'll find it as well. It's very rare for us to find somebody who wasn't just at the top of their industry, but somebody who takes those attitudes and attributes and keeps trying to apply them into different walks of life. And that's what you'll find with Rich. Let's get going. Part 2, Rich Franklin. My scripture memory or anything is horrible. They call me the goldfish because I have the memory of a goldfish. So I'm not going to fight with you over chapter verse for sure.
I have in my Bible app on my phone. I have green highlighted and yellow highlighted. And my yellow highlighted are like to understand like what chapter where something is, so that I can kind of generally find it. But my green highlighted verses, I have 115 of them highlighted, and those are my memorized verses.
Oh wow,
yeah.
And you have those highlights. So when you're reading the Bible and you come across something, you say, I want to memorize it. You highlight that in green because that's going to be
and they're not. Some of them are just partial pieces of verses. One of them I have memorized is Genesis 15:6 when God comes to Abraham and tells him he's going to have children. He says, and he believed in the Lord and he counted it to him for righteousness. Because belief and believing in salvation. So it's like this is an Old Testament version of obviously pre-law with Abraham in the book of Genesis and whatnot. But yeah, it's just like most of the verses that I have memorized have some sort of pivotal meaning to me, like to my faith, or things like reminders of ways to live by, or things that are like discussional that you get into conversations with all the time. Right. Obviously, John 3:16 being one of them. If you don't have that one,
I do know that one.
Okay. I was like
Romans 10:9. I got that one. Yeah. Genesis 1-3. I got those. So I have some of the basics. Okay. But what's one that you've memorized that you're allowing to feed your spirit right now? What sometimes we memorize those things. We should be memorizing those things not to amass knowledge, but because there's something here that I want to seep into my heart and spirit that ministers to me. So is there one of those verses right now that you're...
Let your light so shine before men that they may see your good works and glorify your Father which is in heaven.
And Matthew. Why is that one marinating you right now?
Because imagine this. Imagine if you... Like you dressed like me, not at least today, not a lot of logos on your shirt. Imagine if you every day of your life wore a shirt that just said Jesus loves you. And then you had that shirt on in every interaction that you had with every human being. Every time you wanted to cut somebody off on the highway, every time that you were in that line at the grocery store and that person in front of you was super disrespectful, whatever. And you literally had to, like, you want to get in this altercation with this person.
Right.
And it said Jesus loves you on the front, big as it possibly could, more ink than cotton. And then on the back it said Crossroads Church, right?
Yep.
So now you have no anonymity.
Yep.
Right? And so the moment that you get in that altercation with that person, verbal, whatever, over a parking spot outside of the grocery store or in the line or whatever, we have these things, all of us. And they see that shirt and it's like, that's your testimony?
Yeah.
So you got to let your light shine. And it's just a reminder, like that's one of those reminders of me that I need to let my light shine every day. And I have those moments like as a fighter, I'm emotionally one of them people that'll go from 0 to 100 really fast, but then I go from 100 back to 0 just as quickly. So like if you cut me off on the highway, I'm like, "Argh," and then I'm like, whatever, moving on with my day. But that moment where you're "Argh," is that moment that can really ruin your testimony. So I'll tell a story. I tell this story frequently. I was on a plane and I was sitting across from this gentleman, like we were in like row 2 of the plane, and he's sitting across from me and we get to chatting. He was originally from Great Britain, moved to the US years ago, married a woman, they had kids, and we're, just coffee shop talk. And he looks at me and he says, you got any kids? And jokingly I go, none that I know of. And it's funny, haha, and the lady in front of me laughed. And I had this moment where I was like, oh man. And I said, hang on a second. And I tapped her on the shoulder. I said, Miss, I'm sorry I said that. And she's like, oh no, I laughed. It was funny. And I said, yeah, it's funny. And I mean it as a joke. I said, but the reality is, I said, if me and this gentleman here started talking about my faith, I said, I've completely ruined my testimony with you, because you would be thinking like, this guy was literally basically, what I was saying was, I've slept with so many women that none of them have come back.
Right.
As a joke. But she doesn't know that. And so it ruins my testimony for her, and that's not a light. And so I have to remind this is one of the verses I have. I remind myself, let your light so shine, like let it shine in every situation I do. So literally I I have a buddy of mine that runs an organization. It's an anti-bullying organization. And he has these shirts. He gave me a shirt and it says free hugs on it. And I wear it all the time. It just says free hugs. And then it's got their website on the back. And I jokingly said to him one day, cause I have what's called RDF, So
no, what's that?
It's I don't like to use vulgarity, but it's a resting dick face. So yeah, it's so when I walk around, I look.
How have I gone my whole life and not heard of this? Dirt, have you heard this before?
I have not.
Okay, I'm going to be using that again. That's good.
Yeah. So when I look angry, and if most of my friends had to describe me with a word, they would use the word intense, and that's how I've gotten to where I am in life. But the thing is that I don't look very approachable. So I was joking with my friends saying, I wear this shirt all the time, and I've worn it when I've traveled. I've worn it, and I've never been stopped. Nobody's ever been like, can I have a hug? And the moment that I said that to him, after I told him that story, the next day I wore it to Kroger by my house, and this guy stops me and he's like, hey, my mom, would you be willing to give her a hug? Oh, like he was probably about my age. So his mom was in her 70s or 80s. He's like, she has Alzheimer's. She would really, really like that. And I was like, absolutely. So I give this woman a hug, and it was like this oxytocin dump on me. It was just amazing. And that was the first time. And then it happened to me twice that day in the grocery store. And then I wore it one time, a week later. I was traveling.
What's the shirt say?
It just says free hugs.
Huh.
It's a black shirt with pink writing. It says free hugs.
Huh.
And this buddy of mine, Tom Murphy, runs this organization called Sweethearts and Heroes, and they go to schools and they speak about bullying and things of that nature. And so anyway, I was wearing the shirt, and that's the first time. So it's just, one of those things where, these things can, like wearing a shirt like that, it can be a testimony, or it can work against you. It can, work against the very thing that, people look at us like, oh, you hypocritical, like Jesus loves you stuff on your shirt and whatnot.
You mentioned married. You never been married?
I was married.
You were married?
Yeah.
How long ago did that end?
2012.
2012 was a while ago.
Yeah, that's a while ago.
All right. Is that in your future again?
I would hope so. Yeah, I would think so. We talk about you talk about being disciplined and things like that. I'm not married because I wasn't a great husband, and there was a time where my wife felt like the best thing since sliced bread, and then there was a time where she knew that she became number 2 to my career. She could feel it, and now that was I have a whole story on how I got into fighting from a faith-based perspective and the things that have happened to me in my career and whatnot. But she felt that shift, and I was busy and kept myself as busy as I possibly could, and it's eventually just
So 2012, what was the height of your career in the UFC? What year?
I had my title from 5 to 8 that time frame.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but I maintained a main event status until I retired. So even though I lost the belt, I was still main eventing through the end of my career. And my last fight was in 2012.
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
You mentioned you do seminars. What seminars you do?
I'll teach I'll teach a martial arts seminar or something.
Oh, that's cool. Like a one-off shot kind of thing. Come and learn XYZ from you.
Yeah, that's not. I don't do like a seminar circuit or anything. I'll do one here and there, and it's not how I make my money or anything. And most of the seminars I end up doing now, they're typically for like friends that are opening a school. Hey, would you mind teaching a seminar? I'm like, yeah. It's like, well, how much would I pay you? It's like, just fly me in and we're good. It's like, no, I got to pay you. And then I'm like, listen, if you want to pay my hourly rate, you can't afford me. So you can either take the free price or you can pay me my regular hourly. And then when they hear the price, they're like, okay, I'll go with free. I'm like, okay, cool. Yeah. Cause I'm at a point now where I've made way better money than I would have made as a teacher. And I'm in this stage of life where time is very, very valuable to me. Yeah. Very valuable. It is the only, if you want to call it a commodity, that's irreplaceable that we have. You can replace money. It costs you time, but you can replace anything but time. And I've had several friends, at this age, I just got a message from a buddy of mine the other day, and one of the guys I went to high school with passed away. And I'm like, how? I had a training partner of mine. This happened 4 years ago. I was still living in Singapore. And this is what part of the reason why I came home. A good friend of mine that passed away, a guy named Mojo, who was local fighter. He was actually getting ready for a fight, and the last time I was in town, when I was still living overseas, I would come home for like 2 weeks at a time, and we had dinner together. And then I got on the plane, and this was during COVID, and traveling with masks and all this crazy crap and quarantines, and I had to do a quarantine when I landed back in Singapore for 2 weeks. I was in this hotel. The government commandeered these hotels and basically used them as quarantine facilities. And when I landed, I was there for 2 days, and I got a call from a buddy of mine that said, hey, Mo passed away. And I was 46 years old. My dad was only 56 when he died. And I'm sitting there going like, what the heck is it? Like, I have friends that are dying, and my dad, I could only have 10 more years of life, and I'm on this side of the planet where I have my entire circle of people, my family, everybody's here. What am I doing on this side of the planet? So that was like the thing that basically set off me coming back to live here in Cincinnati. I'd never gotten rid of my house. I still owned all my properties and everything. So this was home base. That was just a temporary thing that my company needed. Yeah. And so I'm still working for the same company, just from this side of the planet.
Well, good to have you back at your home base.
Yeah, it's good to be home.
Anything you want to talk about that we haven't talked about? Anything you're hoping I was going to ask you about that I haven't asked you about?
No, I mean, we talked about fighting. We talked about faith. We talked about friendship. I'm trying to, that use of alliteration, you preachers are good at that kind of stuff.
We are good at it.
I'm 3 for 3 right now. I was trying to think of a
faith,
fourth one.
Fighting, friendship.
And Franklin. Right?
Exactly.
Well done, sir. Well done.
This has been really good. Rich, is there anything that you want to, give an advertisement for yourself or a website or a social media, anything that someone can do if they want to follow up with you or some of the stuff that you've talked about or what you got going on?
You can follow me if you want on my socials. I don't post a whole lot because I'm like my manager used to tell me that I'm like the most famous person that he knows that actually works at not being famous. So I hate posting. I hate putting my personal life out there. I refuse to like post anything inside my house on social media. I don't want people seeing. It's like that's my sanctuary. And but no, I mean, I'm on Instagram. You can, I think it's Rich H. Franklin is my handle, or maybe that's my Facebook, and Rich Franklin's my Instagram. I don't know my handles.
If you got seminars that are going on, we'd find out about them there. Because I think Lib and I might want to do one. Is that a couples thing, or just a guy thing, or what's it like?
You probably wouldn't. I mean, my next seminar will more than likely be in Florida at a buddy's gym. I'm going down there to teach. But no, I mean, listen, if you ever wanted to do something at the church here for the church members, I'd be more than happy to come down here and do.
Which would be what? What would we do?
I mean, what would you want to do?
I don't know. What do we had at Man Camp? What would you do at Man Camp?
What would you need me to do at Man Camp?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure how.
I mean, we can punch people in the face. We can kick people in the legs. I can, whatever. I can do anything from design a weightlifting routine workout to, if we have some mats or something like that, I can teach some self-defense stuff or whatever, or, basic. I have a buddy of mine that's a police officer, and he asked me if I would come work with his department and a few officers from some extending departments to teach some self-defense stuff to the police, not self-defense, but, I don't know, it was a tactics class or whatever. That's essentially the same thing, but I'm a fighter for a living. That's self-defense. But tactics sounds cooler. So I taught a tactical seminar to them, and so I can teach something like that. That's or if
that can be fascinating. That can
or if you guys are interested in an algebra class and you want me to come down here and review the Pythagorean theorem or the quadratic equation, or
was that your specialty was algebra?
I taught, primarily, yeah, but I taught everything from algebra up to trig. I never taught calc. I would tutor some kids in calc, but that was never one of my assigned classes. Yeah.
That is so crazy. You're a man of opposite extremes.
It's I think we all have that. It's that that yin and yang in us, and it's weird that you reference something like that. Like, oh, it's like a mystic type of mentality or something. But I really do. I like there's like you can see these like energies in the universe, like frequencies and things like that, and the way that they'll manifest. Like I saw something the other day about I don't know if it was like quantum entangled protons, and they'll create like this yin yang symbol, like the electromagnetic field or something. I think was what I was watching.
They create the actual yin yang symbol.
Yeah, I'm not. I can't remember. I remember seeing this. This is one of those like 60-second Instagram videos where I'm suddenly an expert on.
Yeah, exactly.
But I just remember seeing it. But I have in my house, I have this picture of a shell, and the spiral in the shell, the Fibonacci spiral.
Yep.
So, and I have that, and I have that hanging because to me that's God's fingerprint on nature, and these things don't happen by accident. Like you see them in like shells, and they're all over the place. You see it in a hurricane and various things. And so, like to me, I'm like God's language is mathematics. So when I see something like that, but the point is that there's got to be balance within us,
Yes.
And so, yeah.
Well, I know a lot of us got something different out of today. We never actually used the word "quote unquote" aggression, but didn't need to because Rich is actually living that way. It wasn't
hyper aggressive.
Yeah, well, it's not just in the ring, but obviously you're aggressive about going after your faith. You're aggressive about scripture memory. You're aggressive about a number of things. That's the way we're redeeming that word. It isn't being a jerk who puts people down. It's hey, I know where I want and I'm going. You're aggressive about your diet. You just mentioned an eating plan that you have for you. You're sitting. You figured out your systems, what you want. You're going forward. And I think too many of us are just allowing life to accidentally happen to us instead of saying, I'd like to build my physical competency. I'd like to build my spiritual competency. And you've modeled that really well for us and given us a great peek inside of a champion. So, hey, friends, take this episode and do something with it. It's called The Aggressive Life, not The Interesting Thoughts Life. And Rich, great to meet you and great to count you now as a new friend. We've talked over an hour. I'm just going to call you a friend. So,
okay.
Thanks so much. And next time we get
I'm still
together,
in decision on whether you're my friend or not, but I'll put you in my extended social circle. Like you'll probably, if you get 1 out of 4 calls from Chandler, you'll probably get 1 out of 5 from me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
That's all right. Well, that's still.
But we're moving up.
Well, Michael is not returning my call because he still can't believe I did an outward sit on him. He's still upset about that I got out from under him. So I'm just not putting you into that situation.
You don't want
to
ruin the friendship.
I don't want
before
to.
It actually takes off.
I don't want you to go, dang. A pastor better at me at something else. I just don't want to do that to you.
We know one thing. It's not verse memorization, that's for sure. He's gonna out-grapple me and I'm gonna out-quote Bible verses. This is backwards here.
All right, you're just better than me in everything. Make you feel better now? Everything. Hey, we'll see you next time on The Aggressive Life.
Got it. Awesome. Thanks, Rich.
You're welcome.
That was great, man. That was really
good stuff.
That really was.
I didn't read any of the questions. I don't like reading questions because
I didn't ask any of them anyway.
Yeah. I like there's two things. I've realized this, that like when if somebody's actually really good at a podcast, they're having a conversation.
Unlike me.
No, this is good. Because this went a lot of different directions, and that's what's fun. And so, but I've literally had podcasts before where I'm telling somebody will say something like, well, and what happened at that time in your life? And then I'm like, yeah, well, and this and that, and then my dad died, and whatever, and they'll say, so then how did you? And it's like, dude, I just said my dad died. Like ask a follow up as if you pretend to care.
Right, they're going through the questions. Nothing.
Yeah. And it's just it's a lack of skill.
In this corner, wearing no personality and no self awareness.
Exactly.
Is Name Your Average Pod show, podcast show. Yep.
Yeah, it's I mean, if you're just a naturally inquisitive and curious person, then you know how to have conversations. And so I was like, if I read these and I know that some of them are going to be typical about my fight career or whatever. I'm like, I don't want to have like in the can answers. I hate that.
Well, there's a lot of things I wanted to ask you that I just thought if I got on this rabbit trail, I want to. Like you talked about eating for how many times today?
3. If you're not recording, you should. Cause
I'm still rolling.
Yeah, okay, because this is where good stuff comes in.
Yeah, because like I've always been frustrated. I haven't had an eating plan, and I have a feeling that I'm just.
So when you talk about like the comment you made about people being aggressive, the problem is that most people don't know how. They really don't know how to be aggressive they don't know how to formulate a plan. So take nutrition, for example. Most people would say like, I don't even know where to start. Literally, like I don't even know where to start. And so I've had friends that are like, hey, can you build me a nutritional plan? And I do this all the time for people. And I used to put a lot of time into it, and I would mathematically calculate calories and all this crazy stuff. And finally, I've realized that people just don't know how to start. So what I always tell somebody is this. They're like, I need a nutritional plan. I'm like, okay, cool. Here's step 1. Here's a gallon of water. I want you to drink this and have it gone by the end of the day. And when you get to that, when you can get to the point where you're drinking a gallon of water, then we're gonna fix breakfast. But you drink this gallon of water. If you want to have a coffee or a tea or a soda or anything, you're more than welcome to. But this gallon has to be gone by the end of the day.
Really, you're one of those guys. You believe in the gallon a day challenge?
I don't. Not at all. But here's what I believe when I'm setting up somebody on a nutritional plan is that if you prioritize water and you learn how to schedule your drinking, because you have to do it throughout the day, and what it inadvertently does is it keeps you from you're like, I can't have that soda because I got to drink all this water. Right. So if I give you a gallon, if you're not used to, I don't even drink a gallon of water a day. And on heavy sweat days, I might because I'm replenishing. But you got to be careful with that as well because you also need electrolytes with it. Like just drinking water is not enough. So if I said if you don't drink a gallon of water a day, and I'm like, drink this gallon of water a day, and once you do that for an entire week, let's talk breakfast. It will take you at least a week to get to the point where you're drinking a full gallon and you're not peeing 6 times at night because you're not used to taking in that much water. But once you get to that point where your body's used to cycling through the water, what you've learned
is that true? I don't even know. So you're saying I could do, because that's one of the things I'm concerned about is peeing all night. You're saying your body adjusts and you won't pee?
No, it doesn't, like what I'll typically do, I get up once a night to pee, but it doesn't matter if I'll pretty much cut my water off about 3 hours before I go to bed. Because otherwise I'll get up twice. And so I don't keep track. I have journals where I meticulously kept track of everything I eat, how much water I drank, what supplements I was taking, particularly when I was cutting weight. It was ridiculous. And it was necessary. It's ridiculous for the normal person to do these kinds of things at that level. But the point is that when you're drinking a gallon of water, like you're going to wake up and say, okay, I need to drink this gallon of water. And when you see that, you're like, I want to smoke at least a quarter of this during breakfast. Like I got to get at least a 1 liter down because, almost 4 liters or 1 quart, 3.78 liters. So it's like, I got to get that liter down. 1/4 of this by the time breakfast is over. Otherwise, what ends up happening is you're sitting there at 9 o'clock at night with 3/4 of a gallon, like, oh crap. So once you get used to doing that, I do this for 2 reasons when I'm setting up a nutrition plan. Number 1, if you're not willing to put the effort into drinking that water, then I'm not willing to put the effort into your nutrition plan.
That makes sense.
And number 2, if you can get to that point, then I believe that the next step, fixing your breakfast, you will do. Because I've completely overhauled so many diet plans in my life. Like, here's a people are like, no, I want to go head first. And I'm like, I don't think you do. And so now this is the way I go about it. So after I'm like, get to the point where you drink this 7 days straight, a full gallon. And once you get there, I'm like, okay, now let's fix your breakfast. And so what do you normally eat for breakfast? And then the second thing I'll have somebody do is write down what they eat for a full day. I'll be like, give me a full day's meal for you. I mean, if you grab a pack of M&Ms at lunch, don't cut it out because I need to know what stuff you put in your body to get your physique to look the way that it does. Because if you lie about it and you didn't include those 3 packs of M&Ms you had in the day, I'm going to be like, well, you're that sloppy and you're not eating any junk? Like, how'd that happen? Right? So it's like, I need to really know. And then once I have the nutrition and I see kind of what you eat, then I'll build like a breakfast based off of that. But it wasn't that way when I was younger. I was like, nope, this is how you do it. And it was like strict, like steamed rice, cans of tuna, grilled chicken breasts, whatever. But I do it that way now, and more people will jump on little by little.
But are you prescribing the same thing for every person, or are you
100%.
doing? You are, okay.
Yeah, I mean, weight management comes down to really in my opinion, weight management comes down to carbohydrate management. So what I would do is I would say this: every person in this world should be doing some sort of resistance exercise. Like, it's important. There's so many people focus on cardio over maintaining muscle mass.
Right.
And it's the wrong way to think. Like, I got to keep my heart healthy. I got to keep my heart healthy.
No one ever goes in an old folks' home because they can't run an 8-minute mile.
Yeah,
They go in an old folks' home because they can't lift a gallon of milk.
Yeah, they can't stand up out of a chair.
Right.
Right. And so
they stumble and they can't catch themselves. They don't have the leg mass to catch themselves.
And then what happens is when you don't put stress on the body, like via weight, for example. So, picking something up where you're like, oh my word, this is heavy. It's important. It's important to do that because it builds bone density as well, right? So people that have good muscle mass have strong bone density as they get older. So if they end up falling, they're not going to break a hip or anything like that. Maintaining muscle mass is so much more important. This is why I say to people, I'm like, if I said this to you, like, let's run a 5K. How long would it take you to get ready for a 5K?
Me?
Yeah.
I would say, well, I could do a 5K right now.
If you want to turn in a good competitive time.
Oh gosh, 2 months?
8 weeks, exactly. If I said, hey, put on 5 pounds of muscle, how long would that take you? Exactly. At your age, possibly 2 years.
A long time, yeah.
Year or two, probably. And so it's like, that's the difference between muscle mass and cardiovascular system. And so, in the importance of nutrition, and on the flip side, I tell people this: I go to the gym maybe once a day. I eat 6. So retrospectively, that is how much more important my nutrition is than my working out. So it's about, when you talk about people being aggressive, they don't really know where to start. And it's like, well, if you have some basic framework to go by, like, okay, nutrition's more important than working out. And if I'm working out, resistance is more important than cardio because I can at least maintain a decent heart health. Like, I can lift weights and get my heart rate up.
Correct.
That's not a problem for me. So, maintaining muscle mass and that's what's really important. So anytime I'm revamping somebody's lifestyle like that, I'm like, okay, well, you need to have resistance exercise. And if you're going to have resistance exercise, then what's your ideal body weight? And whatever your ideal body weight is, then I'm going to base your protein intake off of that. And then from there, I'm going to look at your overall caloric burn. Like, okay, so what do you do in a week for your workout? Well, I do this run and, I do cardio 2 times a week in the morning or whatever, and I lift 3 times. I'm like, okay, so your basal metabolic rate is typically something about like this, and this is about how many calories you're burning, so this is how many you need to take in a day. And I could get as tricky as like on workout days, you're going to need more carbs. On non-workout days, so on your workout days, maybe your carbohydrates are 45% of your caloric intake, and on non-workout days, maybe it drops down to 30% of your caloric intake, which means your fats need to go up because you can't just drop calories, so
why would a guy like me go to that much detail?
You wouldn't need to. I would. This is what I always tell people: if you have a food scale in your kitchen and you just took like 3 or 4 days to actually, if you followed something that was like that was detailed like that. See, I've weighed my food out for so many years that it's just, I know, like I can pour meat I can pour ground beef in a bowl and be like, that's 8 ounces. And then when you put it on the scale, it's going to be somewhere between like 7.8 and 8.2. Like I've just done it so many times that's the way that it is. So I know, like when I go into a restaurant, for example, I say to myself like, okay, what do I need to eat right now? Today was legs day. So today's going to be a heavy carb day for me. So I might, for example, go to Longhorns and I will more than likely end up getting the ribeye, the outlaw ribeye.
For carbs?
No, that's my protein intake. But with that, I'll end up getting, probably since today was legs day, is like 2 baked potatoes with it. And I order it, like I have a way of ordering it so they don't put oil on it. All they use is some seasoning and no oil on the baked potato. And the Longhorn up in Westchester, like they see me come in and they know, like they're even the cooks in the kitchen, they're like, oh, that's Rich's order because of the way that I order. So, but I know that when I go in, I know how much I'm eating, because the reason why I like weighing out your food is because when you have this steak sitting on your plate and you're like, okay, is my steak this big or is it this big? And how much protein is that? Like I can tell about how much protein that is. And then things like getting a salad, people forget that, oh, there's dressing on this salad. Right. And when you go into a restaurant, it's not the serving size. Oh, 1 tablespoon of dressing, that's 140 calories. No, they put like a 1/4 cup in there, right? So now you're eating, you just added 500 calories to your meal that you didn't even think about.
Right.
And so once you become aware
Guilty.
yeah.
And that's what they call worth it.
I don't know, man. I don't know because if I'm going to do a salad, like say I want to do a salad, then this is how I manage things. If I want to do it, like I'm like, man, I really want a salad today. I'll get the salad without dressing, but I'll get it with the olive oil and balsamic vinegar.
Oh, I like that.
Exactly. A way healthier option than the crap that comes in those dressings. Like, I mean, everything from the high fructose corn syrup to all the hydrogenated oils, all that stuff that's in there. So I'll choose the oil and vinegar over the dressing. Okay.
Olive oil and balsamic vinegar.
Yep.
Just ask for those in the salad.
Yep. Just say, can I have the oil and vinegar combination? And they'll be like, and say, not the vinaigrette. You have the oil and vinegar. They'll be like, yeah, we have it. And be like, bring that out to me. So then I'll take, if I want to put oil and vinegar on my salad, then instead of getting the ribeye, because a ribeye is about 38% fat, I'll get a sirloin, which is way less fat. So the sirloin's probably, I don't know, something like between 20 and 25%, I'm guessing. And so now I have a leaner piece of meat that typically has a large piece of fat on the backside of it that I can cut off easily anyway. So because I'm consuming my fat in my salad, right? So now I've got my protein.
What fat are you consuming in your salad?
Olive oil, bro.
Olive oil.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's an oil.
All right.
Yeah. So it's basically a fat. It's a fruit. An olive is a fruit, but it's a fat source. So yeah, that's where I'm getting my fat from. Or I can choose to and say like, no, I'd rather have the ribeye because it's more marbled, so I'm gonna get more fat in that. But instead of putting the olive oil in my salad, I'll just do the balsamic vinegar only, because that's enough for me to. I'm like, this still tastes good. And then I have my potato for my carbohydrates. And then so if I didn't work out that day, then I'm like, I only need half of this potato, because that's about all the carbs I need, because my carbohydrates will be lower on a non-workout day.
What's the most common thing that someone should start or stop on eating that would get us to the next level? Soda.
Yeah, I can't remember the exact number, but it's like something like the average American consumes something like, I don't know, 60% of their calories in a day through liquid.
Really?
Yeah, like frappuccinos and things of that nature. Yeah. So you hit this like 600-800 calorie frappuccino. So you take the average like corporate worker in America, and they get up and they skip breakfast, and then they stop at the Starbucks on their way to the office, and they get that frappuccino, and they just got like a 650 calorie drink. And then calorically, that the sugar and everything, it keeps them going. And then then maybe they'll have like some sort of lunch, and it'd be like bagels and cream cheese, and it's like a refined carb with some fat in it, and then they'll sit down and they eat breakfast like a pauper and dinner like a king, and it really should be the other way around, because through the day you need your calories, but they're dependent on these empty calories that aren't really supplying the body with anything. So I always tell people like soda is the one thing in this world that is actually negative nutritionally. You can, if I wanted to drink Kool-Aid, like Kool-Aid has a bunch of sugar in it, and the sugar's not good for me. Soda has a bunch of sugar, but it has all this acids and everything else that leach from the bones, because the acidic stuff will take from the alkalinity of your body so that the body maintains a homeostasis. So, the first thing I say is like, there's no reason to ever drink a soda, The
problem with all this discussion, this is fascinating, thank you. The problem with this discussion is it seems like every article I read or person I talk to, they say something that contradicts the last one. It's almost like everyone says, I have to say something different, and make someone like me just get confused and say,
hold on, am I contradicting a previous guest that said that soda was healthy?
No, you're not. No, you are not.
No, I mean, look, you and I are old enough to know, like, we've lived through a time where eggs were healthy, then they were not, then they were, then they weren't, then they were, then they weren't, and now we're not really sure. And so, like, I eat tons of eggs, and I'll let them kind of sort it out. But I mean, I'm very carnivorous. I eat tons of meat, and I have to for my protein intake, and I do it because in my mind, if the more muscle mass I can maintain as I age, the healthier I'll be. So, right now I'm 220. If I am 70 years old,
how tall are you?
6. Well, I used to be 6'1". I'm more like 6 foot now. So, but if I'm 70 years old and I'm still 215, great. But if like I let my weight drop now, by the time I get to 70, maybe I'm like 198, and it makes a big difference. Like still 198 at 6 foot is still good muscle mass. But as I age, I'm like, I want to maintain as much as I possibly can.
Yeah, I've got people I'm close with who very strict about their diet, and by strict, like no red meat or anything like that. And they're just, oh my gosh, you pat them on the back. It's like just patting straight bones.
Yeah.
You know, there's nothing there. They heard from somebody at some point, red meat bad for you, and so I never had any, and must not have had enough protein because they're just frail.
Yeah, red meat is my primary. Red meat and eggs are my two primary sources of protein. I would say probably 90% of the protein that I intake is either red meat or eggs. Yeah, and I have good triglyceride levels, and I mean my blood's good.
Man Camp is coming. What is Man Camp? It's a 3-day experience, which you may have been waiting for your whole life. You didn't even know it. It's a 3-day experience of camping, of encouragement, of pushing, of receiving, of laughing, of beers, of physical engagement, relational opportunities. It is phenomenal, as is seen by the fact that people from all over the country, all over the world, come to South Ohio every year for this event, and I want you to be there. Your life could be the better for it. It could be the greatest weekend, actually, of your life. You can go to mancamp.us to find out more, and I want to make it easy on you. If you enter podcast15 on that mancamp.us website, we'll get you 15% off. I want this for you. I don't want anything from you. I want this for you. I want this for your life and anybody else in your life and on your downline, because your life is going to be improved on this weekend. Let's see you then. Are you a hunter? Do you hunt?
I do hunt.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
So you get a lot of protein from that.
Yeah.
Or maybe you're not a successful hunter. Maybe we found one thing that you suck in. You finally suck at something. So no, you don't eat anything you kill because you don't kill anything.
So I didn't go out this year. But I did get a kill last year. I think I had 2 does last year, but
good.
I would say this: I'm more of a nature observer than a hunter. You know, more often than not. I was hunting last year with a buddy of mine, and it was the end of the day, and the sun was setting. I couldn't even see the pins on my sights anymore. You know, and so I started lowering my bow down out of the tree stand, and my bow got about a foot off the ground, and it was so dark I could barely see. But this buck comes walking up, and it's the biggest buck I'd seen hunting. Because I'm not picky. I'm not a trophy hunter, so I'm going to kill whatever doe is in front of me because I'm just eating for food anyway.
Yes.
And I see this buck, and I was like, oh man. So I'm slowly pulling my bow back up, as quietly as I possibly can. And this thing's like 55 yards off. It's a downhill shot. It's dark. I can't see my pins, and I'm just like, I'm just going to let one rip and just see if I can, So I do, and which I shouldn't do that.
You should
because
not do that.
I don't want to.
We all understand.
Yeah. So anyway, I let the arrow fly. And I sit in my deer stand for a good 10, 15 minutes because I don't want to push him. And then finally I get down, and now it's just completely dark. And I didn't bring a headlamp, and so I'm using my cell phone flashlight torch, and I can't find any blood. And I'm looking all around the area. It was about a 55-yard shot anyway.
That's a lot.
Oh, hold on, it gets better. So I finally I was just like, I looked for probably a good 25 minutes, and so I was like, crap, man, I missed this deer. So I go back to the truck, and my buddy, this was up at Caesars Creek, and my buddy's hunting on the other side of this property, and he comes back, and he's like, he goes, I was hoping he wouldn't notice. He's like, what happened to that arrow? I'm like, what arrow? He's like, you had 3 when you left. And I was like, yeah, I dropped it. Or so he's like, yeah, sure you did. So anyway, they were grooming the land like a month and a half later, basically like doing some the season was over, doing some preseason work for the following season. And his son finds this carcass of this deer right over top of the hill.
Oh no!
I hit it. I couldn't see the blood. Oh my
gosh!
And it ran over the hill and then laid down. Oh. And because I was just looking in the immediate area, I didn't see any blood, so I didn't bother tracking. I didn't have anything to track. I should have walked over the hill though. I would probably. Well, I don't know if I'd have seen it laying there or not because it was so dark. But anyway, he brings me the skull with the antlers, and he's like, yeah,
awesome.
I'm about 99% sure this is the deer that you shot. And so, so I have that sitting on
You did a European mount of it or something like that?
I just it's just a skull. I just put it on my front porch, actually. So it's sitting like right by my door.
Yeah.
It's kind of cool looking.
Well, that's a European mount. You could have got kind of some glossy preserve on it if you want. That's a European mount with the horns and all that stuff.
It's bone. The bone, they're kind of like cracked and stuff, so it's not a great rack.
Okay.
Yeah. So I don't know if some stuff chewed on it after it died or whatever, but yeah.
I took a few people hunting this last year, and I'm same as you this last year. I got 2 does. I had some horrible missteps on dream bucks, just horrible. But like your situation, I had a number of people this year who I was out with, exact same scenario. It was a perfect shot.
Yeah.
It was that once we found the deer, it was a perfect. And the only reason I kept looking for it is because I took video of the one guy and I could see the arrow going in perfectly, and yet there was no blood for 40 yards, not a drop.
Oh, wow. And
that happened a couple times. So I'm not trusting the blood trail anymore.
Yeah, no. If there's not snow on the ground, it's quite difficult. You know, when you're in the middle of a forest and you got those brown and amber and yellow leaves, it's like blood mixes right into that really well, especially when it's like drip drip. The one time that I hit a deer, I had like perfect, like it was lung shot, and so you could see it was like inhale, drip, 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 exhale, pour. Yeah. And so it was like an easy trail to follow. But
you see the bubbles in the blood. It's like, we got this guy.
Yeah.
He's good, or woman, whatever it is.
Yeah. So, but no, yeah, I'm a weekend hunter. I got friends that are avid hunters, and so I have 5 acres up in Westchester. And so I have the ability to just like set targets up. And here's a funny story. So I was doing target practice actually last fall, week or 2 before the season, because I did plan on getting out, but then I ended up traveling so much I couldn't due to work. And so I have a drop off, like from where my driveway is, I have a drop off that's probably about a 10 to 12 foot drop off. And then, so I park my truck at the edge of my driveway, and I have these pine trees that are there. So I had to shoot between the pine trees, and I put a target that's like 40 yards, 50 yards out in my yard. So I'm shooting, so it can kind of mimics like a downhill shot.
Yeah, right.
Because for whatever reason, I am terrible at shooting downhill. But I'm shooting at this target.
That's the issue with a lot of guys.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know why, but I've probably, like if I'm shooting like that deer could be 10 yards away from my stand, like a very vertical shot, and I'll miss it. And it's like
the key thing I think for you is, you're in your set position.
Yeah.
So to make sure you bend at the waist so everything is the same.
Yeah.
Because guys they'll stay in their same thing and they'll still go like this, but the geometry from how they fire is off.
Yeah, I get. Yeah,
you're like this.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying exactly, because
so you're keeping the same geometry.
Yeah, your pendulum point should be your waist.
Right.
I'll have to check to see the next time that I shoot. So when I was shooting my target, I was doing fine. But the interesting thing was, I live in Westchester, and I had 13 acres. I just sold 8 of it off because I built a new home recently, and I'm sitting in my backyard. I'm putting arrows down range. I've been putting arrows down range for probably a good half hour, and then this buck walks right out in the middle of my yard, about 10 yards behind my target. And I'm like,
wow.
And I didn't have my hunting license. The season had already started. It was like September, it was still warm though. And I was like, man. And so I'm like, well, I'm not going to shoot this thing. And he was like, another 15 yards away. And this was like the first time I'd really put some arrows down range. So I probably only had at that point in time, maybe 25 or 30 arrows down range and target. And so I would, shoot a group of 5, go get them, and then shoot a group of 5.
What pound bow are you using?
A 70.
Okay. Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, this goes to the physical prowess of our guest today, Rich Franklin. In case you don't know, 70 pounds is a shit ton of weight to pull back. It's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot. And half an hour, you're doing that for a half an hour?
Yeah.
I mean, I believe you. I believe in you, but I'm just saying normal people like me, who's pretty in shape, I got a 60-pound bow, and I'm really only accurate up until my 9th arrow, and then I'm just not accurate anymore.
Oh, really? Yeah, I'll shoot them in groups of 5.
Yeah.
But then I got to walk down to the range.
Fatigue. I got fatigue. That many pulling it, but of course you can do that because you're a physical specimen that's more honed than I am. No, I'm serious. It's compliments to you. It's great.
Yeah. No, yeah. I'll shoot in a group of 5, and then by the time I walk down, get my arrows and walk back, like I've had a good, 5-minute break from from shooting, so then my body's like, okay, we're ready to go again.
Well, for me, it's not the cardio; it's that tension of those
all
that stuff. Whatever it
yeah.
is, it's just I can only take so much.
Yeah.
And I'm working out regularly.
Yeah.
But that's cool, man.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm putting arrows down range, and this deer walks through, and he walks behind my target, and I'm like, man. So then, a round or two later, I walk down there, and the deer walks out to the edge of the yard and kind of looks at me like, "What's up?" Like, and they frequently will. And then, so I continue shooting. About 15 minutes later, I was out there for about 45, little less than an hour. And then I literally put 2 arrows down range. I got 2 arrows in target, and this deer walks through my shooting lane between me, between my truck and my target. And I was like, "You've got to be the dumbest buck I've ever seen."
Yeah.
And I don't.
Well, it's because he's in the suburbs. That's why.
Yeah.
You hunt out where I am. That's never going to happen.
Where are you hunting?
Felicity, out at our base camp property.
I got property up in Trenton.
There's just those country deer. They're used to being hunted, and they're hard.
Yeah,
but man, if I could hunt in my neighborhood, which I did years ago, like shooting fish in a barrel, easy.
Yeah, I could literally. I walked out last night to grab my trash can from the street, and I walked out at it was right after the sun set, so I don't know what time's the sun going down now, like 8:30. I was outside between maybe 8:30 and 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
And there were 6 deer in my front yard, and I just walked outside, and they just stood there and looked at me like, "Whoa!" And I'm like, "What's up, fellas?"
Have you done anything out west? You done like an elk hunt?
I have not.
That would be awesome for you. You would love that.
I did go.
It's elk hiking. It's not elk hunting. It's elk hiking.
I know. I have friends that done it. Like, and then you got to like debone all the meat. And yeah. This is one of the coolest and most miserable things I've ever done in my life. I was in Mongolia, outside of Ulaanbaatar, and went hunting with some business clients that I had out there. Basically, like these guys, like this is what they do. We went wolf hunting, and the wolves out there, they're really about the size of coyotes. They're not big. And when he showed me a picture of a wolf, I'm like, "That's not a wolf." I'm like, "That's a coyote." He goes, "No, this is a wolf." And I said, No. And I Googled American timber wolf. I'm like, "That's a wolf." He's like, "That's a bear." And I'm like, "Well, either way." But no, they're basically the wolves out there. They're nuisance animals, so they need to be hunted.
Yep.
And they eat them. And so we went out to go hunt, and we were tracking these things, but we were going through the mountains. And the mountains in Mongolia, they're not really, really high mountains. They're kind of like glorified hills, but we're tracking these wolves through this countryside, and it was minus 37 degrees, and I've never been that cold. Like we were in cars, we were in ATVs, and some of these Mongolians, like they're drinking, I don't know, like hot horse milk or whatever it is. And that is legit. They do drink horse milk, and it's fermented. But they were drinking like this hot stuff. And
that's an alcoholic drink, fermented hot horse milk.
Yeah. It's a very popular drink out there. But man, I mean, me and one of the other guys, we had to like get back in the car like every 25, 30 minutes. And I had my warm weather, like I had my fall gear on, like for hunting, but like you know how you have like your cold gear and then you have your cold gear. Well, I had my cold gear on, and I needed my cold gear. And let me tell you, man, I was out there suffering, and we were tracking these wolves. We never ended up seeing the pack. We were literally probably like a minute behind them because we found like a little antelope that they killed, and then the carcass was still warm. And this is in minus 37 weather, so we couldn't have been far behind. But these guys, they weren't going to let me leave without killing something, so I had to kill like one of the antelope that was running around, and they're like, "Okay, we can do business with him now." Legitimately.
Well, here we go, a little part 2. I got to rock, man.
Let's do it.
That was good stuff. Well, that's it. Back-to-back episodes. Hope you enjoyed it. I did. Definitely going to have some more time with Rich at some point here. But, hey, there's something here for you. You probably aren't necessarily meant to become a MMA fighter. Maybe you want to try it out. Maybe you want to look into something. Maybe you want to do that. But maybe there's something new you need to try. Maybe there's a new attitude. Even just being, if you're a person of faith, being more demonstrative with your faith. Whatever it is, do the thing that would make you uncomfortable and is the aggressive move. We'll see you next time on The Aggressive Life. Thanks for joining us on this journey toward aggressive living. Find more resources, articles, past episodes, and more at briantome.com. My new book, a 60-day devotional called The 5 Marks for Man, 60 Days to a Powerful Life, along with all the other books in the 5 Marks library, are open right now on Amazon. Be sure to leave us a rating and review wherever you listen to your podcast. Then send an email to dirt, that's dirt, @briantome.com to get a free Aggressive Life sticker. Find more on Instagram @BrianTome. The Aggressive Life is a production of Crossroads Church, Cincinnati, Ohio.